And one last look at your traffic and weather for the Moitzel's Automotive Traffic Center for your ride in on this Friday morning. Happy to report, as of right now, no major slowdowns on the roadway. Hopefully it stays that way throughout the rest of your morning. Taking a look at the weather. Hey, guess what? It's going to be hot once again today. High today of 94 with plenty of sunshine. 82 right now in downtown Columbia. High tomorrow, 95. Chance of some storms return on Sunday with another high of 95 as well. Traffic and weather, what's Slum Road Traffic Center here on the game. Oh, 9 o'clock on your Friday morning. Welcome in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri. Back to normal. Back, both of us in the studio for the first time this week. Into the week. How we doing, Jack?
Doing good, man. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
I mean, we saw each other Monday.
Sure.
So we technically were together to do a show, but in studio, it's good to be back in person, you know? It's, well, I've been here all week, but you... glad to be back.
I feel hungover this morning, to be honest with you. I told Terry that when I came in.
Too many Dr. Peppers?
Yeah, honestly, I am going to have to drink so much water this weekend to offset the sheer amount of because, like, again, when it's free, when they give it to you in that, fridge, and you can go back and get as much as you want because they're constantly refilling the thing, you take advantage of it. And I felt slightly ashamed on Wednesday, I think it was. Our guy Josh Pate from CBS Sports, like health nut, fitness nut, very in shape. And I was getting ready to leave, and I was going because, again, I had to drive back about an hour back to my parents' house. And, after a long day, you're trying to stay awake. So I needed a little bit of sugar and caffeine to keep me awake for that ride home. And we kind of, got to the fridge thing at the same time, and he was grabbing a water. And he's like, "Hey, man, you want a water?" I was like, "Actually, I need a Dr. Pepper." So I felt like he was a little ashamed of me for that, but I was like, "Listen, man, I needed to stay awake on the way home."
The Josh Pate physique.
Oh my God.
It's kind of jarring in person,
Yeah, I know. You think like he looks like a big guy when he's doing his podcast and stuff like that. But see him in person, he's huge.
Yeah, and typically I've always seen him wear the like whenever I watch his podcasts or whatever, he's got the short sleeve shirt on, like the white one, and it's like he's jacked. I mean, a little guy like that, I was not expecting that, but he kind of resembles like Popeye a little bit.
Sure, a little bit, yeah.
Like, don't take it the wrong way, Josh. But
no.
Like, that's actually a compliment. Like, who wouldn't want to be Popeye?
He's very much in shape, and it's funny because his signature is wearing like the white T-shirt when he does a show. And like everybody, when you saw him on Monday, everybody's wearing nice button-ups and slacks and all those kind of things. Yesterday, being the last day, everybody was dressed down. Literally,
I don't blame him.
Everybody. Brooks Austin, who we had on Wednesday, again, first 3 days in a suit, looking like he's handing out financial advice, dressed to the nines. And yesterday, again, wearing like just a button-down polo shirt, untucked. Like everybody was very much ready to go yesterday, it seemed like.
Yeah. I don't understand the whole wearing a suit to media days if you're media. I get it for old timers maybe that have always done that, but like I saw guys on Monday even in like khaki shorts and like I saw guys in t-shirts. Like,
sure.
And to this event, you should probably be wearing a polo at the very least.
Yeah, there's no like formal dress code. Because on Monday I wore khakis and my station polo because I'm like, I feel like this is a pretty safe bet for something like this. And I did a look around, I'm like, all right, I got people wearing jeans.
That should be the standard.
Shorts.
Yeah.
And like I wore a polo every day, but I did end up wearing jeans for the last couple days because I'm like, well, again, if those guys can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. So, but it was a good time there, honestly. So
it was. Did we? Well, actually, I should probably hit the Sandstorm minute before we dive into the minute details of what Media Day was. As I actually get to click it myself today. It is time for our Sandstorm pick me up.
Time to get hyped. Here's your 9 a.m. Sandstorm, sponsored by George Sink Injury Lawyers. Just call all nines.
It is time for your 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick Me Up, brought to you by South Carolina's largest injury law firm, George Sink Injury Lawyers. If you've been hurt in the car or at work, call George Sink now at 803 all nines. I don't know if you noticed when you were driving around Atlanta, there's a lot of injury law billboards up around the city, and I kept looking at all this thinking, got nothing on my guy George.
Yeah, definitely nothing on him. So,
but good time in Atlanta. Again, we know going into this week, it's a lot of coach speak. Everybody's excited about the group of guys they have. Everybody's been working hard in the offseason. Everybody thinks that they're going to go out there and win every single game and their culture's perfect and all those kind of things. You do have to kind of filter through those things to get real answers sometimes. Did we learn anything? What stands out to you over the past 4 days?
I think, again, like you said, everyone puts on a pretty good show when they're talking and stuff. And, I think we did learn a lot. I will say one interesting thing is, and we talked about it a little bit the other day, it just, for some reason, it stuck out to me this week. Hearing Jackson Arnold kind of talk about how things did not work at Oklahoma last year, and Auburn was like that first school to really reach out to him. It just felt like instantly like I'm rooting for him to do well, honestly.
Sure.
He's a good player. Just a really tough year for him last year, and he was honest about it too. And then bringing up obviously South Carolina, that game was brutal for him. So it's good to hear stuff like that. Honestly, that's the nice thing about media days is that you're gonna get some guys who are there that will just give you the complete honest answers, not this coach speak stuff or whatever, or player speak, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that was something that definitely stuck out to me. But a lot of good to go around this week, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's one thing, that the player stuff stands out more than the coaches stuff do. And look, a lot of these players are very well educated on saying a whole lot of nothing for 30 seconds at a time, but you will get some of these more guys with bigger personalities that can go out there and say some things. I thought some of the things that Lagway had to say was interesting. Deontay Lawson, we talked about the thing with Castellanos yesterday and all that kind of stuff. So you do get some interesting insight from players, little nuggets about things. But again, I think everybody's message is obviously they're all excited. They're all ready for the season to start. And again, everybody goes into the season believing that they're going to be the best team in the SEC. And unfortunately, one of those teams ends up being that.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be like this for the next few weeks, though, where we get this repetitive continuity of hearing, especially at South Carolina. This will go for any school around the country, just hearing why they're so excited. It gets to a point like midway through August where you're interviewing these guys multiple times and you're just like, all right, can we see something new?
Sure.
Can we get the season going? Because we're ready to hear what these guys have to say about the games that are actually being played.
Has your opinion on any team changed at all this week?
I'm trying to think. Not really. Like, there was nothing that made me be like, oh man, I think this team's going to be so much better. I feel pretty good saying Texas is going to be really good. I think Alabama's going to be super good. I mean, if anything, I think one team yesterday that, and we're going to talk about them this morning, I feel like it's flies a little bit under the radar. I think it's Missouri, and I think that's a team that you just watch out for them. You never know with that sort of team. Everyone lowballs them every single year, including us, and they go out here and win 10, 11 games. I mean, it's the damnedest thing, but that's typically what happens with them.
I think my answer comes kind of in the opposite direction. I feel a lot, even more down on Kentucky than maybe I was, because in listening to Stoops' press conference yesterday and cutting it up and all that kind of stuff, it seems like there's panic there, right? It seems like he's really having to defend himself, why he should be there, and all those kind of things. It just feels like that program really going back to when he flirted with becoming A&M's head coach, at the end of the 23 season, and all that backfired. It just seems like it's been, falling apart since then. I mean, they had that moment in week 1 last year where, they beat Southern Miss in 2.5 quarters, and everybody was riding high, and then Carolina came in and just literally annihilated them in that week 2 game, and they lost all hope from there. The season unraveled. Brock Vandegrift ends up retiring because of how bad he was playing last season, among other things, and it just was an adjunct disaster outside of nearly upsetting Georgia last year, and it just feels like Mark Stoops is kind of a dead man walking.
Yeah, I think it does feel that way. I just don't know what Kentucky's even going to be this year. I'm not very high on them. I don't think they're going to be good. And I almost wonder, I know Stoops has that contract and stuff, but I almost wonder, what do you do with your Kentucky? I mean, you're a basketball school, so your priorities are going to probably be there with revenue sharing and stuff. And obviously football is going to get a large chunk of that, but, is it worth having Stoops if things are not going well? So we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Stoops had so much success turning Kentucky into a nice little, story here for a few years, but last year was not good, and I just don't think this year is going to be any better.
Yeah, and that's the tricky thing when it comes to Kentucky that, okay, and again, his buyout is still pretty large. He's one of the highest paid coaches in all of college football as of right now, that if you did decide to move on from him and you found the money to do that, I think Kentucky becomes the most undesirable job in the SEC, given the weight of what their basketball program is. In an era of revenue sharing, you're not going to be getting as many resources as probably the other schools in the SEC, because you're always playing second fiddle to a great basketball program. And, if you asked anybody in Big Blue Nation, would you rather spend $2 million on a 5-star sure thing quarterback or $2 million on a point guard that's going to help you win a national championship? They're going to take the point guard.
No, most definitely. And that school, as soon as things go bad with football, their focus shifts to basketball.
Yeah.
Big Blue Madness or whatever.
Midnight Madness.
Midnight Madness, yes. I mean, that'll be coming up in October or November, whenever it is, and that'll be when they shift to from football to basketball. So, football is supposed to be the main sport at these campuses, but, certain ones like this, I mean, basketball is obviously king when it comes to Kentucky.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we'll see what happens there. But, yeah, and again, I not that I was high on Kentucky or anything, but I think yesterday really kind of reflected on how rough a shape they seem to be in as of right now. And again, Stoops in his time, he's the longest tenured coach in the SEC, by the way. 13 years he's been there, believe it or not. I guess Kirby is now the second longest because he's been at Georgia since 2016, so 9 years. But yeah, I mean, Stoops is not gotten away with, but he's done just enough to keep the pressure off his back. But again, in this basically year and a half since the A&M thing fell apart, it just feels like it's continuing to get worse and worse and worse. And I don't look at this Kentucky team as one with a lot of optimism. Again, you're bringing in a Zach Calzada guy that wasn't really all that great in his first go-around the SEC at A&M, hoping he does something for you. And I don't know how much raw talent you have around him to help him out.
Yeah, I don't know. So I think we're both expecting a rough year for Kentucky.
Yeah.
But, again, not really a surprise. I think you kind of group them with Mississippi State, and I think Mississippi State and Kentucky are probably on that same level. I would say Mississippi State's probably in worse shape right now, but then again, they're in a different direction with a new coach and stuff. So
yeah, we'll certainly see. The star of the show this week was Eli Drinkwitz, believe it or not. We'll dive into what he had to say coming up next as the Extra Point rolls along. Tyler Head and Jeff Felcher. Reminder, today, Jaron and Terry are going to be broadcasting live from Craft and Draft at 2706 Divine Street for the postgame show from 3 until 6. Go by and hang out with those guys as you get your weekend started. It is the Extra Point here on The Game.
No, it's not. It wasn't here. It's just in general. I just go back to, like, again, what a privilege it is to be exhausted by a challenge you choose for yourself. We all choose to coach here. We all choose.
Topics, though.
They are what they are. You know, since I've been in college football, we've had COVID, NIL, transfer portal, 8 or 9 game schedule. And we've been debating that for 5 years. So, like, I mean, it is what it is.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Points Hour. Head and Jack Belcher along with you. That was Eli Drinkwitz yesterday talking about other coaches whining across the conference as Eli really stole the show in a week that's full of, again, coach speak and word salads and those kind of things. Eli kicked things off in a major way yesterday. He said, I'm not going to answer questions about the Epstein files or JFK or any conspiracies. Like, he set the bar pretty darn high for coaches at media days going forward. I think, and funny enough, after he got done on the podium when Bill and I were doing our show, he walked by me, and I just took off my headset, and I was like, hey, coach, you're the most quotable guy. I was like, hey, coach, you're a quote machine. And I gave him a fist bump, and he seemed to enjoy that.
Yeah, he seems like a nice guy, honestly. I was listening to a little bit of him yesterday. He's a big Disney guy. Did not realize that. Yeah, big Disney guy talking about just all the rides he went on with his kids and stuff. I'm like, this guy's awesome. So, yeah, Eli Drinkwitz, I feel like if there's ever a guy that, like, wins the press conference or whatever, or just was the star of media days, it's probably him in Missouri, I would say.
Sure, yeah. He's not afraid to venture out there and say some things that are maybe a little bit off the cuff, which, again, from a content standpoint is fantastic, and I do certainly appreciate that. One thing that he was also asked about was the lack of national respect for Missouri, despite the fact they've had good success these past couple of years.
Yeah, I kind of addressed this earlier with SEC this morning. You know, if you get caught up, you know, Coach Saban calls it rat poison. I think it's rat poison either way. Praise and blame are both the same. You really can't care about it either way. You know, we have a something to prove mindset. There's all of us, you know, whether you're talking about our coaching staff or players, we all have a little bit of a chip on our shoulder. But at the end of the day, in the fourth quarter, 2-minute drive, that's not what you think about. You think about your trust and belief in each other. You think about doing your job at a higher level. So you can use it as temporary motivation, but in the key moments, it's really more about your belief in each other, and that really is what drives us. It's our belief in our brotherhood. It's our belief in our Elite Edge program. It's our belief in our always compete mentality. It's the development of trust and respect that we have with each other. It's having fun while we're doing this that really drives us in our success. And so other people's opinions, you know, somebody asked me what the difference was over my 5 years being here. You know, in the first couple of years, I really cared what y'all thought about me. Now I really don't. I don't care, you know. I'm here to represent my family, my wife and my 4 beautiful daughters. I'm here to represent the University of Missouri and make our football team proud. And outside of that, I really don't care what anybody else thinks.
So why is it that Missouri doesn't seem to get the respect of other teams? Because when you look at the past couple seasons, they've been successful. They've won 21 games in the past 2 years, 11-2 in 2023, 10-3 last year, after, you know, they were basically right around 500 for the first 3 years under Eli Drinkwitz, but they seem to be hitting their stride right now. But we don't talk about them in the same way as the, obviously, you know, Ole Misses and Tennessees and South Carolinas. They're all kind of in that maybe second tier of teams in the SEC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know why it is. I mean, I think part of it probably has to do with the fact that, and still to this day, you feel this way. I mean, I've been to Como once. I went, not for football. I'll go this year for the first time for football, but went for a baseball series about a year ago. And, you know, it just doesn't feel like an SEC town. You know what I mean? And quite frankly, it shouldn't, because they come from the Big 12.
They're in the Midwest.
Yeah, they're in Missouri. So they're 2 hours from St. Louis. So we're talking about, like, right out there, right? So I think that they have the Big 12 feel, and they, of course, come from the Big 12. I mean, they've only been in the SEC since, 2012?
Yep, 2012.
So they're one of the more recent members. Yet, I don't know if, and just an example here, do we feel like A&M kind of gets that same reputation, or I think they feel like an SEC school?
They do, and I was thinking about this earlier when I put this in the rundown. like A&M came in with Manziel, guns blazing, right? I think they earned the respect very quickly, and it felt like a part of the SEC since. You look at Texas and Oklahoma that obviously have deep and rich histories themselves when it comes to football that I think endears them to a lot of people in the SEC, even if you don't necessarily like them. So I think all three of those schools kind of came in as natural fits. Again, Missouri being where they're located and just not being as rich with tradition as maybe and history as some of those other schools when it comes to overall success, I think makes them kind of a square peg in a round hole. And look, they've had good seasons. They played for back-to-back SEC championships in 2013 and 2014. That 13 team was a lot better than the 14 team was, but I just don't feel like they've had enough sustained success to make themselves undeniably respected by everybody else around the conference. Like if they're going out there and winning, 11, 12 games, 5, 6 years in a row, then everybody's like, oh, hey, wow, look at Missouri. But like, again, they've been so up and down. They've had good seasons. They've had bad seasons. Again, but prior to 2023, Eli Drinkwitz is just a 500 coach. So I don't think they've had enough sustained success in the conference for people to really look at them and, give them the respect that whether they deserve or not, they feel like they should have.
But I feel like you can argue they've had more success than A&M in a lot of ways since coming to the SEC. I mean, you got to think about 2013, 2014. They go to the SEC championship, lose to Auburn and Alabama. And in these last few years, they've won 11, 10 games. I mean,
yeah.
they're. I will say you're right about needing to be more consistent, but I feel like they've done enough during since 2012 to garner more reputation as an SEC school compared to what has A&M done? I think of A&M as an SEC school, but if we're thinking of them as an SEC school, I think we got to probably feel the same way about Missouri. I know it doesn't have the feel of an SEC school, but they're winning, right?
Sure.
And so you got to respect that at the very least, I would say.
He also threw out a radical proposal for the college football playoff, so it wouldn't technically be a 30-team tournament, but it will require a lot more play-ins. It's a longer clip, so I won't play it here, but just kind of give a synopsis of it. He wants the 4 AQs from the SEC, Big 10, ACC, and Big 12, but he wants 3 play-ins from the SEC, 3 from the Big 10, 2 from the ACC and the Big 12, and then 1 at-large from the G5 and 1 at-large, just in general at-large representative, which would probably go to Notre Dame or something like that. So he's really taking this idea of expansion and branching out even more, even though technically the field wouldn't start until we get down to, I guess, 16 at that point.
Yeah, that would be 30's kind of crazy. I'm not going to lie, but when I first read that, I'm like, this guy's delusional. I mean, we spoke to Rich Clark the other day. He was the CFP executive director, and he was talking about the fact that 16 is probably their cap out on how many they would do.
This would still be 16. You just have all these play-ins to get you into that 16.
I know what you mean. But I think, and another thing I took away from that conversation we had with Rich the other day, they don't want the season going too far out, right?
Yeah.
Like January 20th is about where it ends right now. And that feels like a good ending point, but you also have the fact of like, when do you even start? Do you start beginning of December? What do you do? I think you probably have to, but you're talking about expanding the season a little bit longer than it already is, which we're fine with, but obviously they're not.
And Drinkwitz did say yesterday, again, this is looking out for the best interest of a team like his because, let's face it, especially this year with all their losing on offense, uncertainty at quarterback with Bo Pribula, they're not exactly a team that's likely going to be fighting for the very tip top of the SEC. But if you're expanding this out to 6 play-in game or 3 play-in games, then all you got to shoot for is like 6th in the conference, which is a lot more obtainable. And for a team like Missouri, I feel like that's well within their realm of doing probably on a consistent basis. So, again, I think he's looking at this of, okay, what kind of format would benefit my team where if we're playing our best football at the end of the season, we could play our way in and go on a run.
Yeah, I think I understand what he's saying. I think it would be good. I'd like to see how this would actually look like. The CFP, give like a mock example of it. When does it start? When does it end? How does this all look? How many home games are we talking about? That's a big thing. So a lot to figure out there. I like the idea, and I like to see it maybe come to fruition, but I don't know if it ever will.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever going to happen. Again, I think we're going to get to 16, and maybe we'll have play-ins, but I don't think they're going to be as elaborate as this is. But again, Eli's looking out for his own team, his own interest here. So I do get it, and I'm thankful that he gave us some good content for the week to talk about, at least, because a lot of these coaches just were very much plain and boring answers that don't really give us much insight. Yeah, coach speak, essentially. Coming out later today, we should get the SEC media poll. How did we vote? Who do we think our best teams in the SEC are going to be this upcoming season? We'll talk about that next as the Extra Point rolls along. It's Ed and Jack Feltry with you on your Friday on the Game.
When it comes to HVAC replacement options, AAA Heating and Air has your back. They offer guaranteed financing, 12 months with no payments or interest, and a 15-year warranty on parts and labor. So if you need a new system, they're the best option to go to in the Midlands. But here's the question. What if you don't need a replacement? What if you just need a repair? Well, I got some good news for you. AAA Heating and Air has you covered there as well. They offer up to 12-month payment plans on repairs with no credit check required for homeowners who just need repairs. So all you need is just to have a valid bank account, and they'll be able to handle the rest. So whether you need a replacement or you need a repair, AAA Heating and Air has unbeatable options. Call them today and get your comfort back on track.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you on your Friday, recapping all things SEC Media Days from this week. Coming out today, sometime probably in the early afternoon, we will get the official media poll from Media Days. For anybody that is in attendance, you get sent a link to fill out your SEC preseason all SEC votes, as well as select who you think the teams are going to be in the finishing order for the conference at the end of the year, 1 through 16. There was a lot of, because again, you go through when it comes to picking the preseason all SEC team, and there's a lot of like position groups. You're like, I'm sorry, I don't know enough about other teams' long snappers to give a real good assessment of who the best three of these guys are going to be. So I think I'm going to have to guess on this one.
Yeah, I just kind of I looked at a few other ones from like the national experts, and I'm just like, hey, if these guys think that those are the best for long snappers and kickers and all that, sure, why not? I'll just pick them. Can't go wrong there. So
we'll see what the official media poll is coming out later today, but we will dive into what we think it's going to look like individually here. Who's your dead last team? Who's coming in last in the SEC this year?
I don't think this is much of a surprise. I'm going with no, I'm just joking. Gonna go with Mississippi State at 16.
I agree with that. I like the idea of Blake Shapen if he's fully healthy, because we didn't get to see that last year once they got an SEC play. I do think he kind of fits what Jeff Lebby's trying to do, but Lebby talked about it the other day when he was at the podium. They're like 80% first or second year guys in that program. They just don't. They have so much roster turnover that it's really hard to get continuity that way. And I don't envy the position he's in, because he's essentially rebuilding a program that was, at the very doldrums of the SEC after the year with Zach Arnett and everything like that after Coach Leach passed away. So it's going to be a long road to getting this team back to respectability, I think, because, again, it seems like every time they get good talent, they jump ship and go somewhere else. So, yeah, I agree with you. I got Mississippi State coming in dead last here.
Number 15 for me, going with Kentucky. I just, again, we spoke about them at length earlier. We just don't feel very good about them this year, and I just think there are a lot of better teams in this conference here.
Yeah, I just, again, it seems like Stoops is dead man walking. I don't have much confidence in Calzada at quarterback. I just feel like it's a tough situation out there. That I agree with you. They're 15th. Well, let's kind of jump up here to the top 5. Who is your number 5 team?
Well, okay, yeah, we'll go with it. Yeah, so Tennessee for me is number 5.
Okay.
I think they kind of get a little bit disrespect. I think they're going to be a very competitive team again this year. I don't think they're going to win a national championship or anything, but Josh Heupel's done a nice job there. They obviously have to figure out quarterback, and we'll see how Joey Aguilar looks. But, hey, it can be better than Nico for sure. So we'll see how that looks. So Tennessee at 5.
Actually, I had Tennessee at 11. I'm not too confident this year. I think it's going to be a pretty significant step back from last year. Because, again, I don't know how much confidence I should have in Aguilar at quarterback, because it just seems like such a rush thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it definitely does feel that way. So Tennessee's just one of those that, like,
yeah,
I feel like you can count them out. They'll probably do a little bit better, but we'll see.
For my number 5, I actually did go with South Carolina. I'm putting a lot of belief in Sellers. As we know, the defense obviously has a lot of question marks on it. You got to put your faith in Clayton White and the defensive assistants, which, again, did all stay in place. And I doubt they're going to be as good as they were last year overall. But I think when you have one of the best quarterbacks in the conference and one of the best in all of college football, that can get you a long way. So that's kind of my hope, at least, with this team, and that's why I have them at 5.
I don't blame you there. Number 4 for me, I'm going to go with Georgia.
Okay.
I think Georgia, I feel very foolish to probably put Georgia at 4. But then again, if you're in the top 5, you're winning probably 10 games this year or more. I think Georgia is going to probably drop a game or two. I just don't know what Gunnar Stockton's going to be for them this year. I think they lost a lot of pieces, but you can never count this team out. So they're definitely a top 5 team for me, coming in at number 4.
I went with Alabama. Much like a lot of teams in the SEC, the quarterback thing's uncertain. And, DeBoer said the other day, hey, Ty Simpson's our starter right now, but it's still an open competition. One thing, though, when you have the talent like you have at, wide receiver, with a guy like Ryan Williams, defense is loaded as it always is. you just kind of have to be good enough, right? And again, I don't think that's going to be good enough to get them to like a championship level, but Alabama's good to decent years should still be about 9-3, which I expect them to be right around just like they were last year. How about number 3 for you?
LSU. Like you mentioned with Alabama, you need to have a quarterback. LSU not arguably, I think they do have the best quarterback in the conference. And so that with Garrett Nussmeier, some good weapons returning this year, I think the defense is going to be a bit better this year, I would hope. And we'll see what happens. But, I mean, you can win so many games with Garrett Nussmeier under center.
Honest, and I agree with you. I think overall he's the best quarterback in the conference as of right now. I wanted to put them in the top 2 because I got LSU at 3 as well. But just something about Kelly slightly underachieving these past couple of years gave me pause. So I had to put them at 3 as well. Again, I think they got tons of talent once again this year, but for whatever reason, Kelly finds a way to lose 1 or 2 games that he has no business losing, and that just kind of seems to be the norm for them these past couple of years.
It definitely does.
Now we get into the top 2. Who's your number 2?
I got Alabama. Okay. I just think, I know Ty Simpson, quarterback's going to be different this year, but again, they return so much talent. That defense is going to be nasty, I think, this year. And I know they got some tricky road games this season. They got to go to Florida State, which I know they weren't good last year, but still tricky on the road. That environment will be crazy rocking on August 30th. Then you go to Georgia at some point later in September, and then you go to Auburn at the end of the year, too. I mean, don't forget that. Auburn's one of the toughest places to play in college football. So, and South Carolina as well. A lot of tricky road games this year. This is where that was Alabama's kryptonite last year, was the road games. They struggled mightily. So if they're able to win a few of those, they're going to be in pretty good shape, I think, this season.
I got Georgia at number 2, and I think they just kind of get the benefit of the doubt in a lot of ways because they've been at the SEC or the top of the SEC for a while now. Again, I think we still don't know everything about Gunnar Stockton. They retooled on at wide receiver, which was desperately needed. Got Noah Thomas and Zachariah Branch out of the transfer portal. Defense is always going to be good to really good. Last year was a little bit of a step back for them, but I think they've got a lot of talent coming back and brought in some talent from the transfer portal as well. It's kind of one of those things until you see them fall off, I think you're just going to kind of assume they're going to be at or around the top of the conference. And once again, I think playing for the conference championship at least.
For sure. I don't blame you with that pick. Now, number 1.
I think we can agree on this.
Yes. Texas.
Texas.
Don't mess with Texas. I think they're unequivocally the best team in this conference. And they got Arch Manning. I mean, that's one piece, but they're going to have a good defense, good weapons on offense. I think the run game is going to be good this year.
Yeah, and I agree. Again, from a top-to-bottom talent standpoint, I think there's nobody in the conference with more than they have. Multiple, first-round draft picks on the defensive side of the football. You mentioned, the running game, the receivers, all that stuff looks great. And, I don't put them at the top of this list by thinking that Arch Manning is going to be everything that he's built to be. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback, but at Texas, with the talent you have around you and a great offensive mind like Steve Sarkisian, you just have to be good enough, right? I'm not saying he's a game manager because that's kind of a dirty word when it comes to quarterbacks, but he just has to not make mistakes, right? He gets the ball to his playmakers, protects the football. I think they'll be fine. Again, he doesn't have to go out there and win the Heisman Trophy for Texas to be a national championship contender. They were one turnover away from playing for a national championship with Quinn Ewers last year, who was a 7th-round pick. And I think Arch has a higher upside than Quinn Ewers. So if he can be slightly better than that, I think that's enough for them to maybe go all the way this year to at least win the SEC championship. And again, maybe he does go out there and become the great quarterback that so many people have built him to be. But even if he's not, I still see a clear pathway for Texas to be the best team in the league.
They're going to be picked by so many people around the country to win the title this year. So I feel like that's a good top 5 for both of us. And by the way, South Carolina was not in the top 5 for me. I have them at 7.
Okay.
Again, I just think they lost so much from last year, man. That's really tough to replace.
And the interesting thing about the SEC is that middle group from 5 to 12 is so fluid. So I have them at 5. You have them at 7. Somebody may have them at 10, and it's all you can come up with very convincing arguments as to why each of those makes sense. Because, again, that's just kind of how the middle of the conference seems to operate. One year you're here, one year you're there, one year you're at the very bottom, but it just kind of fluctuates. As long as you're staying out of that 13 to 16, you're doing okay.
And as long as you're around that range, like you said, like 7 in the SEC, you're probably still winning 9 to 10 games this year potentially.
Sure.
So I'm not lowballing South Carolina. Don't get the pitchforks out there. I'm in the top 5, anyone that's listening, but I feel pretty good about having them at 7. There's just so many good teams in this conference.
We'll wrap up hour number 1 in the Extra Point. Who would you rather be stuck in a car with? SEC Coach Edition coming up next. It's the Extra Point. Tyra and Jack Feltry with you here on your Friday on the Game. Welcome back in, Extra Point. Tower Head, Jack Velcher along with you here on your Friday on the Game. Reminder, you can always check us out on the Game TV, powered by Integrated Media. Sponsored by our friends at Shepherd's Glass. Download the 107.5 Game app as well at the iTunes Store, the Google Play Store, and listen to us wherever you go. After we've spent the entire week hearing from coaches, a lot of coach speak. Drinkwitz was interesting, at least. If I'm sending you on an 8-hour car ride, and you can pick one coach in the SEC to sit in that car, no music, no podcast, just you and that coach talking the entire time, who you picking?
Drinkwitz would be a good one. He would be a good one.
I feel like he would get annoying pretty quickly, though.
That too. That's the thing you got to think about.
He's interesting, but again, I go back to my notion that he's got the most punchable face in the SEC.
Yeah.
I feel like
He's still a little dweeby.
within that first hour, he's going to get on your nerves so much, you're going to be like, all right, I need to get this guy out of here.
I'm trying to think. Beamer, maybe? I mean,
I think Beamer could be fun.
he could be enjoyable.
Would his energy wear on you the entire maybe like after a while, like, all right, man, let's calm it down a little bit. We're just driving here.
Yeah, maybe.
'Cause he's high energy.
He is, but you know what? You need the high energy to drive anyway. So 8 hours.
do.
He'd be a good co-pilot in the car. So I can respect that.
I think Sam Pittman could be fun.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm sure he's got stories ad nauseum about his various stops in college football, and he just seems like a fun guy, you know.
I'm trying to think who else. Who would you not want to drive with? I think that's a good. I think that's the good second part of this question.
Not Lane Kiffin, because I feel like it would be he'd make it all about himself.
Yeah.
In that 8-hour ride, he may give you a couple of good little quips here and there, but I feel like a lot of it is going to be very like self-centered, and he's probably going to be doing his makeup in the little passenger mirror the entire time or something. Very tan, by the way.
He is extremely
tan.
But you know, that's the nice part about having a boat, going fishing, and
I guess so.
going to the beach, I'm sure, and all that. So, and all these coaches probably have like a lake house and stuff. So, trying to think. I mean, I don't think honestly he's a great coach, but I don't know if Kirby would be a good time in the car.
I feel like he could give you a lot of insight into things. Like I would love to like pick his brain on stuff.
Yeah.
Because again, he's very successful, and you know, there's a reason that Georgia's kind of where they are right now. I don't know if it necessarily be the most fun conversation, but it could be intriguing.
Hugh Freeze would be interesting. He's had a lot of fun times, I think, during his career. And he plays golf too, so
I have a sneaking suspicion Hugh Freeze could be really good to talk conspiracies with. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I get that vibe from him, but I feel like he might have a tinfoil hat somewhere that could make for fun conversation.
Yeah,
possibly.
I feel like him and Lane would get along very well, which they do. So
yeah, it seems to be that way, at least from from their Twitter reaction. Billy Napier would put me to sleep.
Yeah. Billy's not very. I don't know. I think he's gonna survive at Florida for a little longer, but yeah, I don't know. Doesn't seem like the most intriguing coach yet. Not a lot of coaches in this conference I'd want to sit in the car with for 8 hours, quite honestly.
Yeah. Again, this conference lacks the personality that it once had.
Yes.
Again, I think we put Kiffin on maybe a higher pedestal than we should, because most of his work is done on social media, right? Like his tweets and retweets are where he really has his zingers. Again, outside of the short little dig at Hugh Freeze about the golf game the other day, there was nothing in his press conference that I felt like was, oh man, did you hear what Lane said about this? Like, I feel like we've almost created this, or not we, but there's almost this false narrative around him that everything he says is just like, oh, wow, crazy. You never know what's going to come out of his mouth, because I don't necessarily think that's true.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. It's just, I think we are, this conference is missing that personality. Like, I'd love to sit in the car with, like, Nick Saban or Ed Orgeron, well, honestly.
Oh, my God. Well, could you understand him?
Maybe when he's not screaming, maybe.
I would want to go on a car ride with Ed Orgeron purely for the purpose of, like, when we get hungry and, like, Ed, find us a good place. Like, I feel like he could take me to the most hole-in-the-wall barbecue place that would blow my mind or something along those lines.
100%. What about Sark? You feel any way about Sark? I feel like he'd probably be a little bit higher up on this list, I think.
Yeah, maybe. Again, great like football mind, obviously, but I don't know enough about Sark outside of football. I feel like he's just a football coach. I really don't know much other than that about him.
Well, it's safe to say we will not be taking a car ride with many of these coaches.
We will not, but fun thought exercise nonetheless. Hour number more of the Extra Point in the books coming up next in hour number 2. Corey Parson of the BetMGM Network, as well as our guy Joe Machiki, going to hop in here, as well as your Friday rolls along as we continue to look back at SEC Media Days here on the game. Tyler Head here once again telling you about our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialists. As I'm driving around the Midlands, I always love when I see one of those Canty Foundation Specialist trucks out on the roadways because I know they are on their way to help out somebody else with foundation issues. If you have foundation issues yourself, you need to check them out, get them out to your house by going online to cantycanfixit.com because they can fix your foundation problems no matter what they are, and get your family fixed up right so you can live without worry going forward. Because if you have foundation problems, that can also affect things like the value of your home, which you certainly do not want to see diminished. So again, go online to schedule an appointment today at cantycanfixit.com, and they'll come out and fix your foundation and crawl space issues no matter the issue that's plaguing you there. Again, cantycanfixit.com for our friends at Canty Foundation Specialist. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head along with you here on your Friday on the Game. Going to be joined by our usual Friday guest and Corey Parson of the BetMGM Network, as well as our guy Joe Machika coming up here in just a couple of minutes. But want to continue to recap what went down at SEC Media Days over the week and focusing in on what happened yesterday. I got to say, I do feel really bad for Mike Elko because he was given the death slot when it came to when he spoke, being the 16th of 16 coaches speaking at SEC Media Days at 2:45 on day number 4. As we talked about yesterday, once we got there and we're doing our shows, you were looking around and a lot of tables had been left, by the radio stations and stuff that had been out there all week long. Everybody's kind of dressed down. Everybody looks like they're tired, exhausted, ready to go home. And there's just not a whole lot of energy when it comes to that last day of SEC Media Days compared to the first couple. And, as Elko was speaking, as I was getting ready to go, I looked down in the field area where they had the podium and stuff set up, and it was way, way, way less than half full. I'd say probably around maybe a quarter or 2/3 or something like that. You had a handful of people down there asking questions, but certainly not as intriguing. So unfortunate for Mike Elko to get that short stick draw when it came to when he spoke at SEC Media Days. But, I kind of feel like, in a way, that is a reflection of where the A&M program is as of right now. And I've deemed them to be in what I like to call SEC purgatory, because they're not like awful. They're not like, going 4-8 every single year or 3-9 or anything like that and missing bowl games. They're always good, but they're not great. They're never really great at the end of the day. They joined the conference back in 2012, and I know we kind of make the joke that, Texas A&M always finds a way to end up going like 8-4, and that's not, we're not kidding when we say that, because out of the 13 seasons they've been in the SEC so far, they've won 8 games 6 times. Half the years they've been in the league, they've always existed around that 8-ish win mark, and last year was no different, going 8-4 and then losing the Las Vegas Bowl under in year number 1 when it comes to Mike Elko. So you just kind of always believe that they're always going to be a good team, but never really like a great or like a next level team that's really competing for the conference championship, let alone the national championship. And they were in a position a year ago, never forget, they came into that game against South Carolina as the number 10 team in the country. They had, 8-1 at that point in time, or 7-1 at that point in time, because they had lost to Notre Dame in week 1. They went on that run leading into the South Carolina game, and Carolina ends up beating them 44-20. The fans rush the field and all that kind of stuff, and they proceed to go 1-2 in their last 3 games. That only win coming against New Mexico State a couple weeks after they played South Carolina. So they faltered down the stretch. They lose that game to Texas, where, again, they were in position. If they had won that game, they could have played for the, potentially gone and played for the SEC championship. But that obviously didn't end up happening there. So, again, they kind of revert back to the norm of what we believe Texas A&M to be. And Mike Elko, talking yesterday at Media Days, discussed the lessons he learned from not being able to close out last season on a strong note as they started the season on.
Yeah, I think you have to go through some of that sometimes, and as painful it is, and as painful it was for us and our fans and everyone involved, we had never been in that position before. We had never been the hunted team. We had never been in November competing for an opportunity to get into Atlanta with our destiny in our own hands, and I think you learn how you have to elevate your game in those matchups when you become that team, and going on the road in back-to-back weeks, and we didn't play the football that we needed to play to finish it. And it's been our mantra the entire offseason. Mantras don't turn into wins, but I do believe our kids have a really strong chip on our shoulder to change that story and finish this thing the right way.
And there is something to be said about experience in those kind of situations where you're positioning yourself to maybe make a run at your conference championship. And for a lot of guys that hadn't been there and done that before, that's a lot of pressure. And obviously, you got to continue to play at a high level to be able to close out the deal on that, which they were obviously not able to do. And look, I like Elko as a coach. I think he's good. I think he did a fine job at Duke, and that obviously propelled him to getting the job at Texas A&M. But for whatever reason, because again, we talk so much, especially in today's world of college football, about resources and teams that have a lot of money to spend and all those kind of things. And A&M is certainly one of those teams that is in that top five-ish pretty consistently of how much they're able to spend, the resources they have, and all that kind of stuff. But for whatever reason, they've just not been able to break through and get at that level that the Alabamas, the Georgias, and now the Texases are operating at in the SEC. And I quite frankly don't know what exactly it's going to take. And again, they came in to the conference in 2012 as strong as anybody ever has, minus I guess Texas this past year going all of his semifinals. But they came in guns blazing. Manziel goes out there and wins the Heisman. They upset Alabama, crazy season, and I think earned a lot of respect out of the gate, since then. But in the years since, again, they haven't won double-digit games. And again, it's not like they've been awful. Even Sutherland's last year, they went 7-5. And when Jimbo got there, they were a pretty consistent 8-9 win team until the last couple seasons there, where they did end up missing bowl games in consecutive seasons that led to him eventually getting fired and Elko coming in. But they just kind of exist in this weird middle ground in the conference for whatever reason that seemingly no amount of resources, money, whatever it may be, can get them out of it. And we'll see if this is the year where things change, if year number 2 under Mike Elko, after learning from not being able to close things out, can make a difference. We'll certainly have to see. And one of the big catalysts for them, obviously improving, would be Marcel Reed going into year number 2 as the starter at quarterback. Coach Elko yesterday talking about Marcel Reed having to take a step forward in his second year at the helm out there in College Station.
Yeah, it probably started right when we got back for the spring semester. I think his wanting and desire to one, get the receivers together to start working on the timing in the passing game, and then his ability to want to get in with our offensive staff and kind of start going back through the playbook, back through the details of what we're doing schematically, starting to really lock in on the finer points of the scheme. And so I think from the second he got back from his winter break, I think he stepped into the building as the guy who's going to be the starting quarterback. And so, again, I think you're going to see a massive jump from him.
We look at South Carolina's 6-game run in the regular season last year, and that's when you saw consistency in performance from Lenore Sellers really take an uptick, and his numbers aligned with South Carolina winning those games and putting themselves in position to make the college football playoff. On the flip side of that, when you look directly at A&M last year and them faltering down the stretch, there's a direct correlation between that and Marcel Reed not playing his best football. If you remember, coming into that game against South Carolina, in which he had played pretty much the majority of the past 6 games they had won in a row, he had 6 touchdown passes, no interceptions, run for a couple scores as well. Again, he and Connor Wakeman had been trading the back and forth the starting job at that point, but he hadn't really shown too much downside. Well, starting with that South Carolina game and going all the way through the bowl in Las Vegas against Southern Cal, which again they went 1-4 down that stretch, he proceeded to throw 6 interceptions during that time. So you saw and again, he took on South Carolina and Texas in that stretch, 2 of the toughest defenses in the conference, and certainly the toughest ones that he saw the entire season. So you saw him kind of go through some of those growing pains there as we got later into the season of what was his freshman year. And we'll see if that offseason of development and all that kind of stuff, learning from the mistakes that he made in year number 1, proves beneficial for him to see if he maybe can be that catalyst for getting Texas A&M to a higher place in the SEC. Now, this is a game that I feel like is really kind of flying under the radar for South Carolina fans in terms of games that we talk about that could obviously end up being trouble because of where it's positioned. For South Carolina, we talk so much about that daunting month of October/November, and Ole Miss is on November 1st, but I'll kind of count it in that middle block of those 4 games between LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, and Ole Miss. But after the bye week, after the Ole Miss game, you're going on the road to Texas A&M, and I feel like, again, that's a game that you absolutely have to win, as all of these are, obviously. But A&M's not been a place that's been good to Carolina. They finally got the monkey off their back when it came to beating them a couple years ago in Willie B, and they've obviously won the past 2 games of that matchup here in Columbia. But for whatever reason, College Station's just not been a place that's treated South Carolina very good over the years of this quote-unquote rivalry that's been going on for a decade up to this point. And again, for coming off the heels of what is going to be a challenging month of October, where, I don't know, you're probably at hopefully looking at maybe like a 2-2 or something like that, you're probably going to go into the month of November with quite literally zero margin for error if you still want to be in consideration for the college football playoff and all that kind of stuff. And you can't go on the road and lose to a team like A&M. If you already have 2 losses, especially having a 3rd loss that late in the season, that could really ding you in terms of trying to make a run at the college football playoff. But A&M definitely an intriguing team. We'll see, again, if your number 2 under Mike Elko makes any kind of difference, if Marcel Reed's development gets them to a different point. They are a completely loaded team when it comes to running back. Le'Veon Moss, who got injured in the game against South Carolina a year ago, is back, as is Amari Daniels and plenty of others that make up that backfield. But what really is intriguing about them from a negative standpoint is the fact they quite literally have lost their entire receiving room. You have guys like Noah Thomas that have transferred out. I mean, really looking here, their top 5 receivers and their top 5 targets in terms of total yards last year all gone. So they're completely resetting at the at the wide receiver position, and they're a team that's always going to have good talent on defense that may have to carry them a little bit, especially early on in the season, as they try to get their legs underneath them when it comes to the offense as a whole. But again, we'll see. Again, it's going to be a very tricky game for South Carolina, as it always is, going the road to College Station. And again, if they can win that, Carolina that can hopefully continue on what will be a successful season at that point. We'll have to certainly see. I got Corey Parson, the BetMGM Network, set to jump in with me coming up next, as well as Joe Matika, and we'll run the numbers, take a look at the odds to win the SEC. It is the Extra Point. It's our head along with you here on your Friday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Points. Tyler Head along with you here on your Friday on the game. A little bit of a mashup here for the rest of the hour. So got our guy Corey Parson of the BetMGM Network, as well as Joe Machika hanging out in studio. How we doing today, guys?
What's going on, Tyler? Glad to be in studio today. Haven't been a while since I've been here. I believe the last time I was here was right before the Super Bowl.
Yes.
I think I may have predicted a Philadelphia Eagle victory.
Well, you're right on that.
Yeah, Tyler, happy to be here with Corey. Obviously, brought some good luck the last time came in. So, yeah, happy to be sitting here on this Friday morning. Always good to be in studio. And, yeah, a little panel today. It's fun.
Are you you in the midst of moving? Is that what you told me?
Yeah, Tyler. So I'm exhausted, but happy to be here. Kind of working on my last rides. Moving in July is not fun.
Horrible.
Yeah, it's not
Brutal.
fun. I don't know why I decided to end my lease in July and make the move then. But, some future lessons learned for Joe here.
I've moved in July before, and I actually didn't go to work the next day.
Yeah, it's getting into work tonight. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I moved in July. No, I moved in August when I was in college. I had a couple of friends help me, and I realized very quickly that was probably not the wisest decision because it was definitely 8 billion degrees that day.
Yeah, it's just moving in the summer in the South. It's not.
Matter of fact, what's crazy, that is the last time that I actually did the move myself. After that, I was a moving company guy after that. Yeah,
it's probably where I need to go after this because I'm tired of moving in the summertime and whatnot. Just got to hire some people at this point.
Well, as the summer rolls along and it gets us that much closer to the start of football season, I've been out at SEC Media Days all week, obviously listening to coaches, give us answers of nothing and word salads and all those kind of things. But, hey, we're 44 days away from South Carolina. Kick things off against Virginia Tech, and again, that's what we really like to sink our teeth into once we actually get some real football content here coming up in about a month and a half.
Yeah, most definitely, Tyler. Huge football's on the horizon. Media days, talking season. It's upon us. We're right there.
Well, Corey, as a resident betting expert from the BetMGM Network, and on the heels of Media Days, I want to take a look at some SEC championship odds here, and I ran through my media poll a little bit earlier on in the morning, and to no surprise, I, like many people, have Texas winning the conference championship, and they right now sit as the odds-on favorite.
Yep, they're the favorite so far in this market. It's opened up that way, and it's stayed that way pretty much ever since, so it's kind of held steady at about plus 250. So the Longhorns have opened up, stayed this way, because today what I did, being that I was coming in the studio, I got on the phone last night with a trusted Vegas insider because I wanted to get the real deal numbers and show you some real looks because now we're starting to get more money coming in. You got more people coming into town in Vegas, and getting close to the college football kickoff. So I was able to get the latest information. So definitely got some good stuff for you. I wrote it down on this piece of paper right here. You know what I'm saying? So this is not BS.
No, it's the real deal.
You a believer in the Texas hype, Joe?
I can see it. I don't know if Sark has, been on the big stage or the biggest of stages enough to kind of get, his feet underneath him, kind of like what we saw with Harbaugh and even Kirby, too, with the national championship, right? It feels like, a lot of your experience can go out the window on the biggest of stages. So you got to see that from Sark. We didn't see it at Southern Cal, so we'll see.
And one thing last year, again, they played Georgia twice, once in the regular season and once to the SEC championship, and the Dogs obviously, got the better of them. And this aligns once again with my, media day poll. Is I got Georgia at number 2. They come in with the second best odds at plus 300. But it is kind of one of those things like until you see Texas go out there and prove that they can beat Georgia, you might give Kirby and the Dogs the benefit of the doubt here.
Well, in Vegas, the number is tightening a little bit. Kind of opened up at around 325 down to 300. So Georgia is taking a little bit of money. They are the consensus 2 teams right now at the top of the SEC as we head into get closer to the season is Texas and Georgia. What's interesting, though, Tyler, is the team up the top that's taking money is Alabama. This one has been plummeting. It's opened up at plus 450. Now it's down to plus 320. And jump back up over the weekend at 325. So they're almost consensus with Georgia to be the team that Texas is playing in that championship game.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, Bama, you look kind of sleeping giants, and the whole rumor is Saban going to get back into coaching. I mean, that's the most news we've heard about Bama since. But I mean, to see the number dropping and the money kind of going there, you'd think like a lot of people must think like Bama is the sleeping giant this year, and everyone's kind of overlooking them or like all the talk is discrediting what they're going to do. Everyone else is talking about Texas and Georgia.
Yeah. Alabama is so interesting because, again, last year wasn't the best season by Alabama standards. They're still good, still on the cusp of the college ball playoff. And last time I checked, that roster is still full of NFL caliber talent, especially on defense. The question comes in when it comes to quarterback. And, again, it seems like Ty Simpson's going to get the nod as of right now. And as I've said before, he doesn't have to be a superstar. If he can just get the ball out to his playmakers around him, the Ryan Williamses of the world, guys like that, he should be fine. Now, again, that's easier said than done, obviously, but I don't expect them to fall off the face of the earth, certainly, and I do expect them to kind of flirt around that third to fourth place in the SEC, maybe find their way to Atlanta as well. We'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Gunnar Stockton brings Georgia to. I think it's interesting. We saw him against Notre Dame in the bowl game or in the playoff, and limited action, but you saw signs of life. So maybe a full off season and kind of going into the season as a starter is going to do Stockton some good. I think Kirby's kind of reloaded a little bit. They've had the year to be or go underneath expectations. So I think Georgia should be ready to go as well this year.
Corey, two teams that are kind of rising up the board a little bit here, tied evenly at plus 1,400 with the fifth best odds to win the SEC championship. Ole Miss and A&M. I just ran through A&M and got to some of the Elko stuff in the last segment there, but they're a team that, again, A&M, since they've been in the conference, has kind of consistently hovered around 8-4. Our Marcel Reed, a very talented quarterback. We'll see if he takes a step up in year number 2. And Ole Miss loses a ton, especially from defense from that team a year ago. Have an unproven young quarterback in Austin Simmons that people are very high on, but still a lot of unknowns about a team that last year, quite frankly, should have been in the playoff and underachieved.
Yeah, these are the two teams right here that kind of you take really the most away from and trying to see what the sharp money is telling you about these two teams, because it is Ole Miss and Texas A&M. Both of them kind of opened up in that 16, 15-1 range. Texas A&M is now down to 11-1, and Ole Miss is down to 10-1. So these are the two teams that are taking a ton of action as the sharper money starts to come into Las Vegas right now. So I'm curious kind of like to what you guys think. Why are these two teams seeing the push? What is it about these two teams that people think, okay, these teams are possible? They're not long shots. They're possible contenders.
Yeah, I think it boils down to talent on the roster. And I said a little bit earlier, you look at, like A&M's running back room, and it's perhaps the best in the SEC. Marcel Reed, again, going in year number 2 as starter, can potentially take a big step forward. And for Ole Miss, I think from everything I've heard and read, Austin Simmons is that dude, right? Everybody talks about, hey, this guy is the truth, and our kind of one sample size for him is leading a touchdown drive against Georgia last year that everybody continues to bring up. But if that's all you have to go off of, that's all you have to go off of. And again, it's a talented roster at Ole Miss. I don't think it's as talented as it was a year ago, but the belief is they're always going to be kind of hovering around, and maybe this is the year where they finally take that step forward. I don't know.
Yeah, Tyler, you were hitting the nail on the head there with Austin Simmons. When have we ever heard Lane Kiffin have a problem with a quarterback producing? It's very rare. So I think, the part with, this team isn't going to be as good as last year's, right? So which leads to them, kind of flirting with the top since Lane's a good coach and can get some buy-in there at Ole Miss. They're just not as deep. Right, so there's still potential to win a couple big games and maybe compete for the SEC, but the roster isn't as deep yet, and so Lane Kiffin's going to get some buy-in. Austin Simmons will be just all right, and everyone will be talking about the flashy plays that he's making. But again, I think they're kind of flirting with the top simply because of the Lane Kiffin factor and the depth. But then A&M, you look at that too, similar.
Sure.
It's a lot of talent and, building off of some stuff that they could do last year, but then you also lose a bunch as well.
And Corey, perhaps the most interesting thing here that you noted is teams like LSU at plus 750, South Carolina at plus 1,800, and Florida at plus 2,000 that aren't really moving at all right now. They've kind of settled, which is weird because they have three of perhaps the most proven quarterbacks in the entire conference with Nussmeier, Sellers, and Lagway.
Yeah, that's very interesting that these three teams with the quarterbacks that are Heisman Trophy candidates, you're really not seeing no movement settled in the market. There's a lot of game-to-game money coming in on Florida. Very little action to no action on South Carolina and LSU in this market, so almost untouched basically. So the number opened up, stayed the same, hasn't moved. Now you still have people starting to talk about first pick of the draft for Lenora Sellers. So, but that market probably won't be open until sometime next year. But very, very popular Heisman Trophy sleeper candidate. His number in that market is not moving, but because at some point he's going to be a liability to the Vegas sports books because there's everybody is saying that's their Heisman Trophy candidate.
Yeah, well, we'll certainly see. And obviously, Joe, you know, if he was if he even makes it to the stage in New York this year as one of the finalists, this city will be beside itself.
Yeah, this city will certainly be on fire if he makes it to the stage in New York. And I know there's certainly a lot of Gamecock fans that right now are liking the odds where it's at right now. They kind of like it being, as high as it is because, it's the best kept secret right now because, I mean, you look at South Carolina, in the past and stuff, no one's going to pay attention until they do something. And that's just the unfortunate nature of it. So I'm sure there are a lot of Gamecock fans right now really enjoying those high odds on Lenora Sellers, at least making it and if not winning the Heisman this year.
I think it could be two quarterbacks from South Carolina on that stage.
Yeah, we'll certainly have to see there. But that's our running the numbers for the BetMGM network there with our guy Corey Parson. Carolina fans sitting in a pretty good spot right now. Same can't be said for Arkansas and Kentucky fans.
No.
Coming up next, would you rather be a fan of the Razorbacks or the Wildcats right now? We'll discuss that next as the Extra Point rolls along. Tyler Head, Joe Machika, Corey Parson on your Friday here on the game. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyrett along with you, hanging out with our guy Joe Machika as well as Corey Parson of the Bet MGM Network on your Friday here on the game as we look back on the week that was at SEC Media Days. And I can't think of two better candidates for who sprung the leak than the Arkansas Razorbacks and the Kentucky Wildcats. Two teams not exactly in great places right now in the SEC. And yesterday, we heard from both of those coaches, one of them being Sam Pittman. And he was asked pretty bluntly, point blank, hey, how does the pressure of hearing, how does the discussion of your job security add to the pressure that's on you as a coach? Here's what he had to say.
The only ramifications of someone constantly having you on this list or whatever other list is recruiting. That's the only thing. And it seems to affect us a little bit more in the state of Arkansas because they, they're up on the Razorbacks, they see more. Now, how can we stop that? We win more games. That's what we can do. Look, most everything a guy brings on, he brings on himself. Most things that come out, you earn it. Now, you may disagree with some of it and all that, but I've earned that. I have. To get off of that, we've got to win more games. But I'll say this. To consider that you're going to go coach some player for 10 years in the SEC, you're a fool. Kirby Smart, Stoops, that's it in this league. So I think you got to look at it as year to year. How are you doing? I'm not worried about it because I got a good staff and a good team. So I'm not worried about it at all, but I do appreciate the question.
Coach, we'll go over here to our left on the far out.
So if you are asking the question of, okay, what two coaches are more likely to get canned this year in the SEC, I think you look at, Sam Pittman and Mark Stoops as two viable candidates. Billy Napier also thrown as well, and maybe not Stoops as much because of the high buyout there. But I have to pose the question to you two. If you had to choose between being a Kentucky Wildcats football fan or a Arkansas Razorbacks football fan right now, which way are you going? Well, what is the better option of these two at this point in time?
Well, let's take a pass. I've never heard a coach sound like he knew it was over, right?
Yeah.
That was so lacked any confidence. He didn't even really fight back against it. He said, listen, this recruiting. John Calipari coached there too,
Yeah.
And John Calipari is probably going to have, the top player in his class come join the basketball side. So you can get players in Arkansas. They're just not doing a good job, and he sounds defeated. It's got to be tough to be a Razorback fan right now.
Yeah, I'm going to go on the flip side of that, Corey. I'm going to say Kentucky simply because you're stuck with, Stoops as your coach. There's no real bright light at the end of the tunnel for this football program, and there's also been rumblings of, especially with revenue sharing, maybe pumping a little bit more of that towards basketball. So I don't know, Kentucky's in a weird spot. They're kind of coming to the headway of that they've always been, I guess, destined towards in this recent era of collegiate athletics. It's like, is Kentucky a basketball school or a football school? Because they were making some ground on the football thing because they're in the SEC and all that. But again, it's just coming to a headway. It's like now Kentucky gets to make the decision.
From Vegas standpoint, it was two teams that, I heard last night the guy just said people hate them, and that was Kentucky and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And I do wonder, with a team like Kentucky, because, again, they've been a basketball school, always be a basketball school in the revenue-sharing era. If you're coaching at Kentucky, you're not going to get quite the resources the other places are going to get. So I almost kind of wonder if they become that perennial bottom dweller in the SEC because, again, you're not going to have the resources. You're not going to get as many high-level players more likely than not. And I imagine coaches are probably going to use that as a stepping stone, right? Because that's what Vanderbilt seemed to be for a while. James Franklin took the Vanderbilt job, or took Vanderbilt to some heights they hadn't seen in a long time, and propelled that to becoming the Penn State head coach, because the ceiling for success there, at least at that point in time, was very, very low. And I feel like Kentucky, just given the fact that you're not going to have everything you need to be successful and compete at the top of the league, is probably going to turn into, whenever they do eventually move on from Stoops, kind of one of those jobs that people just kind of use as a way to get a bigger and better job somewhere. Because, again, you're never going to be bigger than that basketball program no matter what.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at Arkansas. I don't know. I sort of view Arkansas as still kind of a sleeping giant, right? You have all that Tyson Foods money, and I still think their next coach search will be like to look for a coach that they want there to be for a decade, right? To have success, to compete, to knock off people in the SEC, to bring back kind of Arkansas back to where they were. And that's just going to be a challenge. Like I think, like you were saying, Tyler, Kentucky is kind of destined towards that stepping stone in basketball school area. Meanwhile, you got Arkansas that's, just desperately looking for a reset.
Yeah, well, we'll certainly have to see. I do wonder, especially with Calipari now at Arkansas, and I don't know how long he's going to be there, if that doesn't turn the tide a little bit more towards the basketball program than maybe what they've had in years past with a guy like Eric Musselman. Because, again, Calipari was not cheap to get there. He's going to try and bring in as much high-level talent as he can and obviously get that program to the level of winning national championships, and that could potentially come at the expense of the football program. We'll have to see.
I kind of feel like Arkansas historically has probably been a SEC basketball program. If you look at it, you think of Nolan Richardson and in the 48 Minutes of Hell, you come through that era, and you didn't really see too much of it after that, but they've always, basketball-wise, historically, been one of the top basketball programs in the SEC. So maybe it is a basketball school.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say maybe it begs up the question, like, are they going to be Kentucky 2.0? Like, are we going to see the next 5 years of Arkansas athletics be, are we a basketball school now? Like, the same dance that Kentucky's been in for the last 5-10 years. It'll be interesting to see because they're both kind of trapped in mediocrity or purgatory, if you will.
I will say I don't really feel one way or the other about Mark Stoops at Kentucky, but, I think we all collectively like Sam Pittman. He seems like an interesting guy, a fun guy that, does bring a little personality to the SEC for a conference that lacks it on a lot of fronts. And again, I just think, really in the past decade or so, you've seen how hard of a job that is to consistently be successful. Now, they went out and made probably the worst coaching hire in SEC history with Chad Morris that really kind of drug that program down. So Sam Pittman's doing the best job he can, but you can only be so successful at Arkansas, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you've got all that, booster money with the Tyson Foods thing. So it's going to be interesting to see where the Razorbacks go. Good fan base there for sure.
Yeah, but again, both those coaches certainly on the hot seat entering the 2025 season. How significant is aura for college football quarterbacks? We'll discuss that coming up next as we wrap up hour number 2 of the Extra Point. Tyler Head, Joe Manchica, Corey Parson along with you on your Friday on the Game.
The only ramifications of someone constantly having
best attribute as a quarterback is really just, I'd say just my, as people would say, my, I guess, aura, confidence, and just the way I portray myself on game day. Like, my teammates always joke around about, like they say that I'm a totally different person on game day, you know, and that kind of oozes out of me, and it's just great to be able to be that for my guys. You know?
Welcome back in. Next point, our head Joe Machica wrapping up hour number 2 for you here on your Friday. Florida quarterback DJ Lagway speaking the other day about his aura and how significant that is for him with that Florida Gator program. As I'm excited to see what he's going to do in year number 2 as a starter, of course, assuming he can stay healthy. Joe, you're still in that college crowd. What is your definition of aura? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, Tyler, still a young adult here. Aura to me means vibe, pretty much.
Okay.
You kind of like the vibe that's around a person. They're carrying a certain air with them that rubs off on other people, leadership vibe sometimes, in Lagway's case, I'm assuming. And I'm glad you brought him up. Like, really talented kid down there in Florida. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the whole Napier situation because, I mean, you'd think he's a plug-and-play guy for a national championship team.
Sure.
But, yeah, it's interesting. And, you know, the whole saga of him, you know, kind of coming into his own at Florida has been fun to watch because we knew how talented he was.
He was the and look, I got to see a lot of these players in person walking around media days. The size of him is what stood out the most to me. He is every bit of whatever the 6'3" or whatever he's built to be, and I certainly would have to hate to square up and try and bring him to the ground because that looks like a difficult task.
Yeah, quarterbacks are getting bigger nowadays. I can remember going down to the Swamp when Florida still had Anthony Richardson and watching him run out of the tunnel doing cartwheels and stuff, and it's like, why? How does a guy that big do, you know, those kind of things? Like, what is going on here? And so I understand the you know, with Lagway.
Getting back to the aura thing, and again, you're in that younger crowd.
Right.
What's the difference between aura and Riz? How do we differentiate between the two?
Riz is more like when you're like talking to somebody that you like, almost.
Okay.
You know, from like I like you kind of standpoint.
Because it's short for charisma.
Right, charisma.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I would say, you know, aura is more of just a good vibe that somebody's carrying around them. You know, it's and really like it's you just notice it. It comes out. You just notice somebody's energy with them. You're like, man, like there's something with that person. Like,
Do all good quarterbacks have aura?
Pretty much.
Can you be a good quarterback without aura?
Like there's slim cases, right? Like, you know, I think there's the plug and play white boy, like the Brock Purdy, but then eventually he develops aura, if you will,
all right,
by being the plug and play white boy, the you know, Mr. Irrelevant that's turned, you know, right? So that there's some aura with that as well.
But like the underdog thing can be an aura. Like, hey, people thought I was irrelevant, and look, now I'm leading a team to a Super Bowl.
Exactly.
Like, I feel like that in a way is almost kind of like, I don't know, anti-aura that becomes aura, if that makes sense.
Right, almost like a calming one. And I mean, I can only imagine what the aura around Steven Garcia was like back in the day.
Oh, my goodness.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it was probably a certain different, you know, energy that, you know, and I'm sure the town fed off of it as well, by all the stories I've heard from those days and everything like that. So, I think you need some kind of aura, some kind of swagger, if you will, to be a decent quarterback in this league, Tyler, at least.
So how many quarterbacks right now in the SEC can we confidently say have aura?
There's a good handful. I think Diego Pavia's he won it and then lost it, right, with the whole eligibility thing. You know, he kind of was America's sweetheart for a little bit. It's like, oh, yeah, hey, look at him in Vanderbilt, you know, like knocking off Alabama. That's so great. And then now it's kind of like, okay, well, you know, how many years of college football are you going to play? Like, you know, so the aura is kind of lost on it. But I don't know. It's a handful. And it comes and goes, too.
I think with Pavia, he still changes the mindset of people around him. Like, if you go back and watch that Alabama game last year, you saw the confidence in them the entire time. And again, we've gotten so used to Vanderbilt just sucking, right? And like, okay, well, Vanderbilt's going to play Georgia or Alabama or Texas. All right, they're going to lose by 40 points. Like, when you watch that game, you could see in the body language, those guys believed they could win that game the entire time. And I think Pavia was a big catalyst for that. And I think aura goes a long way with that, for the way that he carries himself and his composure and all that his teammates are able to resonate off of. I think it goes without saying Arch Manning has a lot of aura, even though he's still not completely proven himself at the college level.
Yeah, and I think some of it is, like the jokes on X or Twitter or whatever, the SAE president, how he kind of gives that look, how he's lost his ID, right? Like,
Sure.
Plucky little white boy almost, and he's just himself. He's 100% himself, right? And I think you see that, you see it on his sleeves, you see it on him, even with the Red Bull thing, like unconventional deal and all that. So he's handling the whole Manning thing and all the spotlight, decently as well as he can.
So does Lenore Sellers have aura?
Big time. Even without the goggles, I think, like, with the goggles, there was certainly a different aura, if you will. Like, it was like, whoa, like, it's just different, right?
Sure.
Nobody really expects it. So then when we switch to contacts, it's like, okay, is Superman still going to have the cape? And absolutely. So, I'd say he's got some aura, and certainly, the way his team has rallied around him and everything that we're hearing about, even more so this offseason and everything that he's been able to do and rally guys behind him, I'd say there's some more oozing out of that facility right now.
And I think he's a perfect example of how it can be different, right? Because I think I look at a guy like Pavia, even a guy like Lagway, as guys that are very rah-rah, that can get guys fired up and, maybe give an impassioned locker room speech or something like that. That doesn't really seem to be Lenore Sellers' vibe. Again, he's a quieter guy, very, very polite, very well-mannered and all that kind of stuff, but I don't think he's somebody that's going to go out there and give you a Ray Lewis hype speech before the game, but I think his aura comes from his play on the field. Again, just making these ridiculous, insane plays that you don't think are possible, escaping pressure and going on these touchdown runs, third and sellers and all those kind of things. I think that is what resonates with his team is like, oh, hey, he's quiet, but when he gets on the field, he's going to ball out.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to listen to a guy who says, the things once and then goes out and blows your mind every time. Like, these guys are used to seeing it in practice. We're like, oh, if we just listen to what this guy says, like, we should be just fine.
Sure.
So, and I think that's the case with Lenore's. And again, his leadership's really come around and developed. He's, as he's gotten, more comfortable at the helm. And, I think there's a lot of things that he's doing over at that facility that nobody even knows about, but it shows you, what's going on in there, the way his team rallies behind him.
So we got Lagway, Manning, Pavia, Sellers. Is there anybody we're leaving out as far as, like, aura? And, like,
I think Gunnar Stockton's got some.
Okay,
going into that Notre Dame game, certainly being being from where he is, not a whole lot of talk. Like, Georgia quarterbacks usually have some talk. Stenson Bennett got some talk around him, as he kind of came up. But Gunnar Stockton was just, he's chill, drives that old pickup truck, like good old country boy kind of thing. And like, as from a Notre Dame fan perspective, it was not, a good narrative to be hearing.
I think the helmet getting knocked off and not fumbling the ball, like, created this tough as nails identity to him, right? Off of that one play, like, oh, this dude will go out there and put his head in the middle of it. He doesn't care.
Right.
That I think resonates with a lot of people. Like, okay, this guy's going to do whatever he can to win the game. And again, we've only seen basically a 6-quarter sample size out of him, but okay, I think he's on the budding potential aura scale as of right now.
Yeah, I would say so. And again, for the record, Sellers with or without the goggles still has some more.
Yeah, oh no, definitely. And I don't know, I kind of miss the goggles. I know he's better with the contacts, but there's just something endearing about seeing a guy play like that while wearing bubble goggles.
Yeah, absolutely. The uniqueness is what makes it the best. But yeah, Tyler, appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. See you next week. We'll be that much closer to kickoff.
Can't wait, dog.
That'll do it for the Extra Point here on your Friday on the Game. 11 o'clock on your Friday morning. Welcome in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Towerhead, Chris Clark. I think Wes is supposed to be here, right? He didn't tell me otherwise.
That is now maybe Wes decided. He's like, I know Chris is going to nail the trivia questions.
Oh.
So I'm just going to sit out. Didn't want to be embarrassed.
Well, so the funny thing about this is in the beginning, I think you guys were both kind of like apprehensive to it. Like, oh, like what is this? What are we doing here? And then now it's become a thing to where, again, after being out for 3 days, his first question was, hey, did Chris gain any ground on me?
Yeah,
he answered any of the questions right.
We're dialed in. No, we're not dialed in on actually getting anything right.
You guys had a streak there for a couple days where you started to hit your stride a little bit.
Got the wrong kind of streak now. That's for sure.
Well, there's plenty of time. We got 44 days, which I think I see Wes walking in now. So
he's ready.
Get the question off in
He's
just
studying.
a second.
He's studying.
Yeah, last minute cram. Do you ever do that where you're sitting outside of the classroom, like just trying to retain whatever little information you could before going in there and likely failing the test?
That was my specialty in college. So in college, I went over to the old T-Coop, old Thomas Cooper Library. Wes is familiar as well. And had an exam the next day. And probably that morning, don't remember the time the class was. But anyway, it was it was a history, big Gambrel, bunch of people in the class. And I went through the entire history of the United States in about 8 hours.
How much did you retain?
I don't know. I don't remember how I did on the test even. Probably because I was too tired from the night before. But I think I did okay. I graduated from USC, so I did fine enough.
You can almost study too much where you exhaust yourself, and then when you get to the test, you just blank, and it didn't matter anyway.
That's right. Yes.
Wes, welcome.
Sorry, y'all. I'm going to give myself a pass on this one. I was actually working on something in this case. So.
No, I think you were studying.
No,
will you tell us what you're working on, or is it like top secret?
Top secret for now. Yeah.
The good news, I work with Wes. I'll get to find out.
I'll tell you off air.
Okay.
But no, I do feel like I could retain the stuff just long enough to pass the test.
I mean, I don't remember.
Forget it immediately after.
Then you would not you don't really retain it.
No, again,
it's in short-term memory.
Yeah, you do enough to pass the test, and then if asked you about it the next day, you'd have forgotten.
Did you take astronomy, Wes? Were you among us?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody.
Self-paced astronomy.
Self-paced astronomy course. Yes, dangerous. Now,
sounds like a great idea.
In theory, I don't know how or why because, and anybody who knew me in college could vouch. My responsibility level, not the highest. And I'm actually, probably one of my greatest life accomplishments given the state I was in then. I did fine. Like, I got an A in it.
Wow.
I wasn't in there. My roommate, or not one of my roommates, one of the guys on my hall who I went to high school with, actually, he was down on the astronomy test, West, too. Last day, last attempt.
Oh, no.
And he got it. But it was so bad.
I probably how many weeks is a semester?
Oh gosh,
It's been so long.
Well, it's like 15,
in high school
14,
we would get about 9 weeks.
Yeah,
remember the 9-week report card?
It'd be 18 weeks.
And then you double. Yeah.
Yeah. So but college is a little bit shorter than that. So I don't know, 15, maybe 16, something like that.
I did the entire class in about 4 weeks.
Did you get an A?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, was y'all's appeal to astronomy? Because I did this. I took astronomy when I was in community college. I'm like, oh, I like outer space. I'm intrigued by that stuff.
It's not
That'll
quite
be neat.
It's a little,
and then you're like,
not as interesting.
I have to calculate celestial coordinates? No, this is not what I signed up for.
Yeah, what's the half-life of a star?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know.
Oh, my God.
I don't even know if that's right. I think stars have a half-life. Whatever. I'm not going to get myself in trouble with that, but it was...
I did kind of like learning some of that stuff, but the appeal, though, was that it's self-paced.
Okay.
Which sounds like an outstanding idea, but it's a terrible idea. You have to... And me and Chris are old. This is before, everything was online classes. You had to go, and you maybe still do, you had to go take the quizzes in person, but it's just like in a lab. You just go sign in,
Yeah.
and that's so you can't cheat on them.
Right.
So you would now sometimes you would remember you have to do the labs, like you have to go in, you have to do a certain
like
number.
a couple times. You had to go do a lab.
That was where you could get yourself in trouble though, because if you waited to the very, very end, there might not be a lab scheduled. So like you could really get yourself.
But that was that was the pinnacle of memorize the answer, but not retain. Like that's
Nowadays they just have lockdown browsers. You guys familiar with that? Where you have to take test online, where it's like it records you while you're doing it.
Yes.
And you have to like present all materials that you have. So like, hey, all right, you said I could use the book. Here's the book. I promise I'm not looking at anything else. And that's a lot of pressure to know that they're watching you while you're sitting in your room taking a test or something.
proctoring you.
It is.
virtually.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Times have changed. Good to see you guys, by the way. No, it's been the week.
Been a
guys
minute.
here holding it down.
Yep.
Atlanta was fun. Tiring, but fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, Terry was just talking to me about it. He came down here for a minute, said y'all had a big time.
Yeah, good time. Got to stay with the folks, see the dogs and cats, all that kind of stuff. Jack stayed at my parents' house on Sunday. 'Cause
Really?
Save money on a hotel, so got to hang out.
Was Jack a good house guest?
Yeah, he was great.
Okay, let us know if there's a problem.
No, not at all. But because he initially thought he wasn't going to have to get into Atlanta until like 10 on Monday morning. He's like, oh, Beamer's speaking at 8:30, so I got to stay the night. And, of course, last-minute hotels when Beyonce and everybody else was in town over the weekend. Not exactly easy. I'm like, dude, just crash with us. It's fine.
All-Star game.
All-Star game. WWE was there over the weekend. Like,
right.
there was a lot of things happening in the A. As I was leaving on Monday, all the people were walking towards Mercedes-Benz and the cowboy hats and boots and all that kind of stuff going to, I think that was show 4 of Beyonce. Busy weekend.
Did you go to WWE?
I did not. No, I didn't get into town until Sunday.
Okay. I kind of thought that would have been.
Yeah, I
On the
did.
docket, yeah.
I did consider it, but yeah, I passed on that one.
All right, so let's not
You ready to do it?
let's not delay.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right.
We talked about astronomy.
We are 44 days away from kickoff. Last season against Texas A&M, South Carolina scored exactly 44 points. Bit of an odd score in football, one you don't see all that often.
I'm so scared for
The question today, in order, tell me how they achieved those 40 points. You don't. The bonus will be if you can tell me who scored when, but I'm looking for, okay, was it touchdown, field goal, touchdown, 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 touchdown? Can you tell me in order the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different scores, or excuse me, 8 different scores South Carolina had in that game?
Good God, Tyler. Okay.
Did not see this coming. Need a calculator.
So we're just telling you touchdown.
You're telling me touchdown, field goal, safety, whatever. However they scored these points in order. Can you tell me how they achieved 44 points?
No, I cannot. We're not going to get this, Chris. Do you want to just do it together and see how, or do you
cobble it together?
Yeah. Do you think you've got it?
I'm just trying. It is a weird score. So I'm like, I remember specifically, actually, I remember a field goal. I even think I might remember when that is. I remember a lot of the touchdowns, but I'm like, how did we arrive at this score? Yeah, let's do it together. We're not going to get it.
Okay. Score number 1 was
a touchdown.
Okay.
Was touchdown 1 or touchdown 2 the throwback to Josh Simon? I can see that picture. I can see that play in my head.
Man, I thought that was touchdown 2.
Was it?
Well, you can confirm.
Yeah, you can.
Yes, that was touchdown 2.
Okay, touchdown 2.
Now, was that directly after touchdown 1?
Oh.
So we've established they've got out to a 7-0 lead to start the game.
Yeah.
Was their next score another touchdown to get to 14-0?
Wait, you said the Simon throwback was 2.
Was 2.
Okay.
Touchdown 2.
Touchdown 2, but was that score 2?
Oh, I got you.
That's what I'm asking here.
So didn't Carolina kicked a field goal to go into the half?
Yes.
So I think field goal was number 2, second score. Because wasn't it 20? Didn't they have 20 points?
No, the throwback was in the first half.
Yeah, but I'm saying They had a field
how
goal.
would that be
and
score two?
I haven't touched on. So
they definitely answered back with a late field goal.
Yeah.
In the half, right?
Yeah. There was a field goal going into halftime, like right as time was expiring.
I think they had 20 points at the half.
that's what I'm saying. So I think they had touchdown, field goal, touchdown, field goal is what I'm thinking for first.
So now
half.
we're at 20.
Okay.
So we're gonna need 3 touchdowns and a field goal in the second half.
Need 24 more points in the second half.
So
How'd
all
they
right,
get there?
All right, give us. Are we on track?
I don't want to give away the answer if you've got it in the right order or not until you get to the end.
Okay.
But the number of scores that you've gotten so far is correct. There were 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals in the first half.
It was 20 points at the half.
Yes,
I remember
yes.
that.
Yeah. Yep.
So you have 4 more scores here in the second half.
Wasn't it 20 all? It was 20 to 20.
It was 20 to 20 at the
Yeah,
half.
it was 20-20 at the half. So really all we got to figure out is where is the final field goal.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Simon also put the exclamation point on, I think.
Rocket Sanders had a long touchdown
RPO, that little RPO flat throw that they hit a bunch last year.
Yeah.
I think that was the final touchdown.
And then Rocket had a long touchdown. That was the second to last, I think. Maybe not. Yeah, where's the field goal?
I think we're going. I think it's touchdown, field goal, touchdown, touchdown in the second half.
Okay. I was kind of thinking field goal first.
Field goal first.
But
you feel strongly?
Nope, I don't. Obviously.
You're going to go touchdown, field goal, touchdown, touchdown in the second half. Is that where you're confirming?
Yes.
Man, you almost got the entire thing right. If in the first half, it was touchdown, touchdown, field goal, not alternating.
Crap.
Almost. They went out 14-0 lead, kicked 2 field goals in the second quarter, made it 20-all, and then yes, touchdown, field goal, touchdown.
See, I was thinking it was 10-0, but now that you said it, like I can see the score on the TV broadcast I've rewatched because I've been replaying this game. I remember 14-0.
Here's your scores. You had the Sellers.
I felt pretty good, but I felt like Tyler was like, "Nah, are you sure that's the second?" It's the second touchdown, but is it the second?
The reverse.
I feel like he was
Tyler tip.
You had the Sellers touchdown run first, the Simon touchdown second, Herrera 2 field goals, one of those was going into half, the long Rocket Sanders run early in the third quarter, Herrera's last field goal, 57-yard pass to Simon and late in the fourth, and which again kind of put it out of reach at that point, and then Sanders had the 7-yard touchdown run to seal
so
it.
it's the last one.
At the very end.
Yeah.
So boom, there you go.
Good question.
Yeah. Gotta make you think.
Bonus question for Wes.
Sure.
He will not get this. So if he gets it, I'll give him a full point. Okay?
All right.
Because I did some research going in.
Okay.
Thinking, who's he going to ask? Are we getting a Monkel Goodwine question?
Sherrod Green.
I did briefly consider Sherrod Green.
Okay.
But I feel like that would have been maybe too specific.
44 Dixon. That's literally what we called him because they had brothers. It was Tyler. We had Gerald Dixon, and we had Gerald Dixon Jr. He was 92.
Okay.
Gerald Dixon was 44. Played together.
All right.
We called him 44 Dixon. So I thought of it. There's another guy who was in the Holtz era who played linebacker, and he played. And notably, at one point I found this clipping. He was coming off the field during a possession change. I think it was during the Wofford game. Ran into Lou Holtz and gave Lou Holtz a big bruise.
Oh, no.
I think on the side of his face.
Never played again.
I think he played. Number 44, and he played linebacker. You won't get it.
Nah, I'm not going to give dead radio. Just
Kenny Harney. You recognize that name?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Kenny Harney, number 44. I was Tyler, I was so ready for your Kenny Harney question.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to disappoint you. You guys came and gave me suggestions for jersey numbers for areas to point me in
we'll
if you
keep
want
it this
to.
way. We'll just keep,
All right.
You can just keep
Well, there you go.
shooting our credibility.
44 days to kick off, no points awarded today. And in 44 days, they'll be a part of a kickoff game. We'll let you hear what Gary Stoken had to say about selecting South Carolina for the Athletic Kickoff coming up next here on the game.
we're about to do. All right, everyone, one of our great partners here on the game, our friends over at Integrated Media, Michael, Nathan, the team, man, they do a great job. They've been to my home multiple times. They've been to Wes's home, too. So what can they do for you? Well, anything from an audiovisual standpoint. If you need a new TV, need it mounted, you don't have time, you don't have knowledge. If you're wondering, hey, 2025, man, there's like a zillion options online or in the big box stores to go look for. It's honestly kind of overwhelming. So who has the highest quality? What are the warranties like? Can you point me towards the best TV, soundbar, wireless speakers, all that good stuff? Yes, they can do it for you, Integrated Media. You don't have to browse online for hours. You don't have to use the big box stores. Just give them a call at 803-948-8327, and they can take care of it for you. If you want that man cave, outdoor patio area as college football approaches, they can do it for you too. And take care of your Wi-Fi so you can stream all season. IntegratedMediaInc.com.
Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris with you on your Friday here on the game. Looking back at the week that was at SEC Media Days. Of course, as we're 44 days away from Carolina kicking things off against Virginia Tech in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta for the Aflac kickoff game. We sat down the other day with Gary Stokan, who's the CEO of the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, as well as the Aflac Kickoff. And one of the questions we asked him, of course, was what was the appeal to SC and why were they selected for this year's Aflac Kickoff game?
Well, South Carolina, number one, the relationship with Ray Tanner, number one. Number two, as Shane came on, that became another ingredient because of our relationship with Shane and the Beamer family. Number three is South Carolina fans are tremendous fans. And a lot of them live in Metro Atlanta. And it's an easy drive here. So the accessibility to get here. Number four, it's worked out to where South Carolina, which we didn't know when we did this, they're top 15 team in the country, and going to be playing potentially for a slot in the playoff, which, South Carolina wants to be in Atlanta 3 times this year. In the Aflac Kickoff game against Virginia Tech, in the SEC Championship game, and then in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, because we host the semifinal this year of the CFP. So hopefully from my lips to God's ears, right, for all the South Carolina fans.
So one thing yesterday, I was talking about this with Bill. We played that cut, and I didn't realize this, but I seem to have uncovered the fact there's a lot of resentment with people when they hear that answer, because this game's been around since 2008. South Carolina's never been selected for it, despite the fact, again, Stokan mentioned his long-standing relationship with Ray Tanner. Obviously, a lot of South Carolina fans in the Atlanta area, but there's a lot of people upset that it's taken this long for them to finally be selected for this game 17 years in.
Gamecock fans are resented, you're saying?
That's what Bill brought up the original point. We had a lot of people that agreed with him yesterday, text line, that kind of stuff, like, yeah, blank that guy. Why is it, taking us this long to get to this point if you love South Carolina that much?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I don't know if we got that on our message boards necessarily when this game got announced.
A lot of people would ask about it.
Yeah.
Like when, I don't know if we saw a ton of vitriol, but like, hey, will we ever get to play in that game?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of seen as like, out of all the neutral site kickoff games, they've done the one at Cowboy Stadium. We've seen the one, in Charlotte with Duke's Mayo Classic. This is kind of seen as like the biggest of them, I guess, if you're going to rank them. And again, you've seen the Georgias, the Tennessees, the Alabamas, Auburn's, teams like that kind of be frequent flyers and be featured in this game, multiple times. And again, Carolina finally getting the opportunity to finally do that this year.
Do y'all like these in general?
Listen, I'm always going to be pro home environment. I would much rather this game be in Columbia or Blacksburg. I get the reason why you play these games, and Gary told us, the payouts for the teams and all those kind of things. There are benefits to it, but I would much rather have this game down the street or, up there in Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I think it's probably more fun for the fans, I think, if you do have a home game or you have a trip to Blacksburg and get to experience a different environment. Now, for the program in general, just for the high-profile nature, the fact that if you play in one of these games almost by being in that game, you're going to get a primetime TV slot. And in this case, it's not literally primetime, but it's a prime slot in terms of there not being any other games on.
Yeah, so you're the center of the college football world for 3 hours on that Sunday, basically.
Yeah, and so you've got 2 games that day. They're at different times. If you're a college football lover, you're going to tune in. You're going to tune in to watch Lenora Sellers. You're going to tune in to watch Dylan Stewart. That's a game that has some appeal to you, even if you're not a Gamecock fan or not a Hokie fan. And so I do think there's some value to that part of it. Me personally, I sometimes even miss the Thursday night opener for Carolina. Like, I think, those Thursday night games really got taken over by the NFL. But for the longest time, especially when they were trying to kind of get on a more kind of national profile as a program, you got attention because you were that Thursday night opener, which is different, Tyler, than week 0.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, I like it. Look, if you're a Gamecock fan, yes. If you have your choice, hey, go play in Atlanta, neutral site, or any neutral site, really, and then or play at Williams-Brice, yeah, you're going to pick Willie B for obvious reasons. But I think what you said, Wes, you get to play. Virginia Tech is not, South Carolina, Virginia Tech is not. Remember when, Georgia played Oregon a few years ago, and Georgia just
Clemson last
beat
year.
the brakes off them. Yes,
yep.
Georgia, Clemson. Like, it's not going to be a number 1 versus a number 14. It's not going to be, a number 3 versus a number 11, but it is going to be a ranked South Carolina team versus an ACC opponent. There's going to be some tie-ins. And, you are going to have a series. This isn't always the case with this game, but you are going to play Virginia Tech in Blacksburg at some point in the near future. So I think you kind of bake that in. I think it's cool. I like it. There's been some good marquee games if you look at the history. The first one was in 2008, and that was Alabama, who was ranked below Clemson at the time, and Clemson ended up running away. Remember, that was the one where Clemson, they promised the first carry to a freshman running back.
Jamie
Harper, who had never carried the ball. Now, they had C.J. Spiller and James Davis.
Yep.
But they recruited this cat, and they're like, we're going to give you the first carry, and he fumbled. And then Clemson ended up losing 34-10. So there have been some big games in this, and I think it's fun, overall. I know when Carolina goes to Blacksburg, I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to doing that, but this is cool too.
Yeah. Again, 44 days away from Carolina and the Hokies kicking things off in the Aflac kickoff. I think I have something that's going to make Chris want to go on a rant coming up next. I'll let you know what that is when we come back. It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on The Game.
All right, guys, if you are struggling with any symptoms like being tired, low energy, if you've gained some weight and you're not really sure why, losing muscle, reach out to our friends over at Game Day Men's Health. Now, they are a personalized treatment clinic for men, but they're a little bit different than some of the others. Actually, a lot different. They've got personalized treatment plans for men of all ages designed by licensed providers. You can go in, have a consultation, and they actually have in-house labs, so they're not going to send you to another place. You'll get your results in about 15 minutes, get a personalized plan just for you based on your needs. Therapy, TRT therapy, to boost your energy and strength and take care of any symptoms that you may be having. GameDayMen'sHealth.com, conveniently located in Northeast Columbia near I-77 and 2 Notch Road, or give them a call, 803-265-3161. That's Dennis and the team over at Game Day Men's Health.
Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tower West Chris along with you here on your Friday on the game. Chris, one of your favorite topics to discuss is officiating in the SEC, correct?
Oh, boy. Yep.
So every year at SEC Media Days, you get a, state of officiating address from John McDade, who's the head of officials for the Southeastern Conference, and this year was no different. I believe it was on Wednesday when he got up and spoke, and again, I'm doing the show from 9 to 3, so didn't get to go down there and hear it, but I knew what he talked about, obviously introducing the new rules of the SEC, the areas of emphasis and all that kind of stuff with some of the changes to rules in college football, but it wasn't until yesterday that I skimmed through the presser a little bit, and I realized he didn't take any questions. So he just went up there and kind of gave his PowerPoint presentation and then went about the rest of his day. And I don't believe he was available for like interviews on radio stations and stuff like that. But one thing that stuck out to me at the very, very end of his, presentation was him saying this about the pursuit of perfection in the SEC when it comes to officiating.
I believe we had a very successful year in officiating in 2024, particularly when I look at it across complete games. When I look at it certainly across the season, the bugaboo always is those handful of plays across the season where we were not at our best, and it's a pivotal point in the game, right? We're chasing perfection, and as Coach Lombardi once said, it's probably not attainable, but if we catch excellence, that's what we want. And that's what I'm trying to do. It's not that my looking at our accuracy on defensive pass interference or our accuracy on offensive holding is unacceptable. It's the 3 or 4 plays that we see per season that a game pivots on and we weren't at our best. How can we be better? That's how we program our officials. That's how we program our training agenda for our guys next week and throughout the season.
I think when you look at those 3 or 4 plays last year, they had significant impacts on certain games, certainly the season. You'd point to what happened with South Carolina and the penalty on Kennard, and among other things that happened around the conference. So, Chris, I'll give you the floor here. Do you think the SEC is doing everything within their power to get as close to perfection as possible?
Yeah, I mean, when I heard the 3 to 4 plays per season, I'm like, there were 3 or 4 in that game, and this is what, I mean, it irritates me because we have the same conversation every year. Y'all remember the Florida game, the 75-yard hold in the Muschamp era, and other things in that game. There was a pass interference on Florida, offensive pass interference that they didn't call in that game. We saw last year, of course, they called one on South Carolina that everybody's still wondering where was that at. And the SEC just loves to gaslight everybody on this, and Greg Sankey after that game. Now, this was in 2018. It's not like this just happened and they haven't had time to fix it. He put out this letter where he said something very similar to what McDade's saying here. People want perfection. And honestly, people don't. Like, we all know officials are human. There's going to be some missed calls. Any given game, there's, you could call holding against Dylan Stewart 15 times a game. They're just not going to call it sometimes. That's fine. But he, in one way, he has a point that you do have to focus more on the big plays, but it's much more than 3 or 4, first of all. Secondly, nobody wants perfection. What we want is, what are you doing to make it better? And I know they're probably not going to give a bunch of details. Their idea of transparency is, hey, we created a Twitter account. We have an SEC officiating Twitter account. By the way, the same account, I've said this many times, that put out a highlight tape after the LSU South Carolina game this year of the calls that they got right. It's stuff like that.
Sure.
It makes you seem very unserious about actually addressing the problem. Like, what are you do? Don't come up here and tell us we're not perfect, we're trying to get better. We want to know the steps that you're taking, and we want you to not come up and tell us, yeah, we missed a few calls, we know, but yeah, we were pretty good. Nobody cares. We want you to be better, outline what you're going to do. And then honestly, the biggest part of it is don't gaslight us by telling us it's pretty good. We all watched. It wasn't good enough for the best conference in the country.
Yeah, and I think, one thing that we go back to a lot is the accountability, right? Because after that game where there are several missed calls in the LSU game or whatever game we're talking about, there are glaring issues, Coach Beamer has to go up there and face the media, and if he goes in there and tells the officials, well, guess what? He's going to get in trouble for it. But the people that throw the flags that cause these outcomes in these games don't have to go stand in front of cameras or reporters or anything like that and answer to the mistakes that they made. Again, we get a written statement from the conference maybe a day or so later saying, oh, hey, they screwed that call up. Sorry, move on to the next one. And we're just kind of left there to deal with that for whatever reason. So at least more transparency of like, okay, why did you make that call? What was your thought process? Was it the right call? Like something, I feel like, at least like you brought up before the NFL, you'll get a poll reporter that'll go up to the lead official saying, hey, this call in the game, critical moment, what happened there? Why did you make that call? And all that. And maybe that's not the perfect way to go about it, but at least you get some kind of answer, reasonably close after the game to understand why they made the call they made. And officials now, as soon as the game's over, they get in their car, go back to their everyday lives, and we don't see them again until the next weekend.
Yeah, I think you need to have a get it right clause. And, we got so many rules about, and I'm not really pushing for more reviews. The reviews take too long as is. Yeah. They sound great in theory. However, if there is a literal jumbotron that you're staring at in the stadium and you make a mistake, like I really don't want to hear that can't be reviewed. Like if you discuss something, if you have the means of, like, there should just be a clause like, hey, this is called the common sense get it right clause. If it's an clear and obvious that something needs to change to fix what just happened on the field, to fix the call, I actually think you should empower the referees to do so. And then if they take advantage of that power to too big of an extent, then they should be called out publicly.
Well, there is a clause. You just have to throw trash on the field like Texas, and you'll get your call overturned.
That's
cause a delay in the game. Again,
they got the call right, though.
They did get the call right, but again, the way the rules work is once you throw the flag for something like that, it was pass interference, you can't pick it up. You can't change your mind. And in the 5-minute delay of picking up bottles on the field, like, oh, hey, actually, we're going to pick the flag up. No, it doesn't work that way. And again, we got no answer from anybody from the officiating crew after the fact on why that happened and how they circumvented their own rules.
Yeah. It might be that they might need to, and these are the kind of things like, I would imagine if you go through, and I was just listening to what McDade said, and then I'm looking through the transcript, I'm like, we could copy and paste this thing for the last however. I bet you. If you go back and look.
Sure.
What is Sankey saying about officiating? What is the head of officials saying? It's probably about the same thing every single year. And yet we've still got a product there. Like, we've improved the product in a lot of other ways.
Yeah.
Why can we have one issue with, a T-bar in the bowl game? Well, got to change that. But like these other big issues that are a much bigger problem, we don't actually address them versus just saying we're training, we're worried about it. Like we want more than lip service on it. So come up with some decent ideas. Not my job to decide what it is.
Sure.
I've got, thoughts maybe, but show some leadership, come up with some things to where, I think Wes has a good point. Like, yeah, you've got to put that, you got to codify that. You can't just like make it up as you go along, but what can we do to have obvious plays that every single person in the stadium sees that you missed? How can we go back and say, actually, we are going to take another look at that? And then how can you make it not take 20 minutes to do that and interrupt the game?
Yeah. Well, in the SEC always likes to lead the way and be the first to do this, the best to do that. And hey, you got the money. Why not make these officials full time? Make it their job to be SEC officials, not, all right, I'm a school teacher during the week and I call games on the weekends. Like, no, make it their life to be dedicated to understanding and thoroughly assessing the rule book 6 ways from Sunday so we can be better.
They'll say that it's too expensive, but they can do it.
Okay. Oh, they seem to have more money than anybody, maybe behind the Big Ten at this point.
But an SEC officiating dollar surcharge on every ticket, and if it gets better, everybody will be very happy to pay it.
Would you be willing to pay an extra $15 per ticket if you thought the officiating was going to be better? I think a lot of people would take you up on that.
You just put a sponsor on the thing.
Boom, there you go.
This is the the Nike
it's the
officiating crew.
It's the Firehouse Subs SEC officiating crew.
Yes, only if they're good.
Only if they're good.
With Firehouse.
That's right. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour. Some big news on the recruiting front and another commitment announcement coming up tonight we're anxiously waiting for. That is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on your Friday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Westcris along with you for a few more minutes here, wrapping up your Friday show. By the way, today, Jay and Terry are going to be broadcasting live from Craft and Draft at 2706 Divine Street from 3 until 6 for the post-game show. Go by and see those guys as they get you set for your weekend. Talk some recruiting now, and yesterday, Samori and Wingo did indeed end up committing to Miami, as we knew South Carolina was in the mix there along with Florida, but he is, at this time, going to be going down and playing for the Hurricanes. But I always have to ask, whenever these guys commit elsewhere, is that something you still kind of keep an open mind with? There's possibility there that could end up maybe going the other way before December?
I don't know that I would put him in that category at this point. I mean, never say never in recruiting, but you know, I definitely put your Smoke Matthews, your Tamarian Watkins, those guys in that category. Maybe not necessarily the case here with him.
Elsewhere, though, this is kind of interesting. Tristan Lewis, three-star athlete out of Greenwood, received an offer from South Carolina and pretty quickly made his commitment to the program yesterday. Didn't really have to waste too much time thinking about that one.
Yeah, this is kind of your, I would say, your typical or your classic Palmetto State under-the-radar guy where you're talking about a high-upside athlete. You know, we first mentioned him, at least to our subscribers, in June when he was in both for 7-on-7. He was with his team kind of playing quarterback and I think some DB. And then he came back to camp and worked out, you know, for Torian Gray, Clayton White, playing defensive back. And so we've seen South Carolina have success with this approach in the past, taking a quarterback or a high school quarterback and sliding them over to defensive back when they're a high upside athlete. And, you know, that's the case with him. 6'3.5", 6'4", almost 200 pounds. Had some great times at camp and just is a big, physically impressive kid. And, you know, I think, in my opinion, with the rev share era here, with the NIL era, these guys actually can be more important than ever if you're able to hit on some of these under-the-radar evaluations. So this is a case of South Carolina. I would say, even though the offer, you know, I guess officially came down yesterday, you know, I believe they had him pretty much on the board as an offer guy back in June. Of course, they were already down the road with a bunch of defensive backs who already had official visits, were already coming in. You know, some of them similar to him in stature and athleticism. And so I think they just wanted to maybe see where things went. But I think this could be another one of your classic in-state pickups where, you know, you're talking about some projection here. That's why he's not a 4 or 5-star guy. But athletically, you are talking about an SEC athlete.
I think we've seen that. You know, you said South Carolina's had success with it. Torian Gray's certainly had success. He's coached highly ranked guys. He's coached walk-ons to All-American status. Like, if you give him a guy that has the traits that he's looking for, this one's a little different because he's a high school quarterback, you know, so even more projection. But if you give Torian Gray the tools and kind of the canvas that he likes to look for, which this kid definitely fits from what, you know, you just look at him physically, you look at the testing times, he has those traits. And so it'll be about just kind of, frankly, teaching him how to play defensive back and then teaching him how to play it at this level. So there is a big jump there, but very intriguing get. And I think a guy that, like you said, Wes, I totally agree, important to still get these types of guys in your program.
Speaking of quarterbacks, obviously Landon Duckworth said to make his announcement coming up tonight, 7 o'clock, out in Jackson, Alabama. Again, we've talked about this a lot over the past couple weeks. It's coming down to the wire between South Carolina and Auburn. Again, 7 hours ahead. Where's the lean and what's the vibe right now?
Yeah, it has been Michael Scott style declared Landon Duckworth Day on Gamecock Central. I unilaterally made that decision. And, you know, I mean, South Carolina pretty obviously has been in great shape here the last month or so. And that remains the case today. You know, we've seen some down to the wire recruitments. You know, unless there's something completely unforeseen here, I think Gamecocks, South Carolina fans are going to have a good Friday night here at 7 Eastern-ish when he makes his decision.
Yeah, I think it would be a true shocker, if it doesn't go South Carolina's way. And full circle recruitment, I mean, this is a guy who committed. He committed so early from Jackson, Alabama, as a quarterback that, when he committed, it's like, oh, okay, he committed. And then your next thought is, this one won't be over. It's such an early commitment. He was still very much rising up in the recruiting boards in terms of offers, in terms of ranking. You knew some other schools would continue to come after him, and that certainly happened, and ultimately decommitted. But he's a guy that, sometimes a guy decommits, and that's kind of the end of things. We've seen that too. You knew this one, they were going to stay engaged. They were going to continue to prioritize Duckworth, and Shane Beamer's done that. The rest of the staff, Mike Shula, stepping up to the OC position from just a quarterback's coaching role, has kept in contact and built a good relationship there. And this is a kid that, man, you look at he's been very productive in high school already. But the upside here is pretty tremendous because he's a heck of an athlete, and he can throw the football too.
And he was, we were hearing for a while he's South Carolina's top quarterback target. So, that was they were involved with some other guys, obviously. And if you're trying to land one quarterback in a class, you can't just recruit one quarterback. You have to recruit other guys. But he, as the process went on and as, Shula got more and more in tune with him and that relationship built, it kind of became apparent behind the scenes that, hey, Duckworth is who they want. You just didn't know if they were going to be able to truly make this thing come full circle, which is what it appears is going to happen today. Somewhat rare, I would say, for a guy to decommit and then completely open the process and then land back on that initial school. Appears that's what's going to happen here. And what would be an outstanding get? I mean, the national guys are talking not to say he is Lenora Sellers, but, when Lenora Sellers was being recruited, he wasn't Lenora Sellers yet either in terms of what people think of him today. So just in terms of upside, the potential, the game-breaking ability, the athleticism, I mean, you throw on his dunking highlight tape.
Yes.
You see, this dude's got some just elite movement skills, and would be pretty exciting to add him to this quarterback room.
And that announcement coming up tonight, 7 o'clock, and we'll break that all down coming up on Monday as well. That'll do it for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Coming up next, the halftime show with myself and Bill Gunter as we continue to wrap up your Friday and look back on the weekend that was in SEC Media Days. Up next here on The Game.
I'll hit you up. I got to run.
All right, guys, time to start the weekend off right with lunch from our friends at Firehouse Subs. As you know, this show was brought to you by our friends at Firehouse Subs and